Today we're talking about how do you stop worrying about what people think of you? You know, how many of you listening to this right now have had that when you know you've got to walk into a meeting, or you know that you have to go and say something to somebody and it might not be what they want to hear and you're really nervous about what they're going to think of you, or you're going to go on stage and talk, and that stage might be to hundreds of people or it might be to 5. You might be a yoga instructor, you might be an aerobics instructor, you might be a school teacher, and you have to do a presentation to the children and to the parents. So how many of you have had that where you actually start to get really nervous? And when you start to get really nervous, it's actually really hard to be yourself. So as I'm talking, I would love for you to ask me questions as I'm going along, and I want to hear from you. So if this is you, if this has happened to you or it's happening to you, I would love you to write in the chat box, yes, because actually it does happen to all of us, whether we want to admit it or not. And Anna, I know obviously as you're the speaking specialist, this is something that you probably have to deal with all the time.
Absolutely. It's very common, very common.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, what do people think of me? If you didn't worry what people thought of you, you would just do it, right? You would just do it. And so worrying about what others think of us disconnects us from our power. It disconnects us from our creativity. It inhibits us. It actually constricts us. And it stops us from actually just doing it, whatever it is that we really want to do, because of all this judgment. And people will say to you things like, don't worry about it. Who cares what people think? How many of you have had that? Who cares what people think? Just don't care what people think. And I always laugh because that only works for as long as you remember it, right? Like, hands up, really, who does that actually work for? Because the reality is that if you care about your message, you actually do care what people think. You actually do care how people are going to respond to you, what they're going to think about you, how they're going to look at you, the look in their eyes, and what they're going to say about you after the fact. You actually care very, very deeply. And as soon as you start caring deeply externally, you start to lose yourself. You start to get tight, you get constricted, and you start to literally become somebody else. You don't know who that person is, but sure as hell isn't you. And then by the time you have to do that thing, whatever that thing is, it's like half of you is really doing it and the other half is just petrified. And that's a shame, because then you're not being the greatest expression of you. You know that it's not really you out there. So when we feel judged for our choices, for what we say, for what we wear, for what we do for a living. You know, I know somebody that didn't want to become a real estate agent because of what people were going to think of her. She was like, oh God, that's just like used car salesman. I'm not going to do it. She actually didn't do it. And she's still working in the same job, still hating it, still hating the money she's getting, because in her mind, it's not a good enough job. So already these things, judgment is having power over you. So I want you to think for a moment as you're listening to me talk right now, what is the fear for you? If you think about something that you want to do, and it's going to be something new, it might be you're going to start going to the gym. You know you need to, or you need to make a phone call, or you need to get that new job. When you think about putting yourself out there with a new project, a new idea, whatever it is with talking, what's the fear? What's the biggest fear that you have? What would people think of you? What would they say about you? So just close your eyes for a moment and just let yourself hear the answer. What is it? Would they say, God, she was a bit of an idiot, wasn't she? God, she's a fake. She's not real. She's standing up there. Who does she think she is? She's too young to do this. Ugh, she's too fat. She's not good enough. Who does she think she is standing up there doing this? Or do you think you're just going to get laughed at? If any of you are brave enough to write it, put it in the chat box. because I guarantee you I have felt that way at some point, and I guarantee you everybody else has too. It doesn't matter what the fear is, just that you know what it is. And when you know what it is, you can start to heal it. Because I'm all about healing. There's nothing that cannot be healed within you. Nothing. You're actually built to heal. And if you walk away from today with nothing else from this podcast, just know that you're actually built to heal. So if you haven't overcome something yet in your life, whether it's a habit, whether you're sabotaging yourself like a goddamn pro, whether you are doubting yourself like you wouldn't believe, whatever it is, and it's still kind of happening and you can't get out of it, there's nothing wrong with you. All it is that you haven't healed it at your deepest level yet. You haven't healed it at the deepest level it needs to go to heal, or you haven't found your right way to heal yet. That's all this ever is. So in terms of anything that is going around and around and around in your life, you're actually built to heal. You're actually built to heal. And the reason I know that is because you're built to live your destiny. You are built to live the life that's waiting for you. And you would not have been born without the ability to get there. We don't have a destiny without the ability to actually heal what's in our way and get there. So when I was younger, I just want to talk about judgment a little bit more before we go in. I'm going to share with you the 3 magical steps that I use to shine on stage and actually in all areas of my life. But when I was younger, I used to be incredibly self-conscious. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but I used to walk down the street and I would feel people looking at me, and I would think to myself, they can see right inside me, and they can see everything in me. Actually, they can see my shame, they can see my vulnerabilities, they can see all my weaknesses. And I would actually cross over the other side of the street to avoid it, because I could feel like an open book. And for those of you that are listening to this right now, if you're sensitive, you'll actually know this about yourself. When you feel quite sensitive, you feel everything. And so judgment can be one of the biggest things that stops us from actually doing our life's purpose, from creating a life that we're meant to create. It can actually be one of the biggest things that stops us from moving forward in life, that fear of being judged. And if we're really honest, the biggest judges are actually ourselves, because that person might be looking at you, but really, what are you making it to mean about you? If you're sitting in the audience and you're looking at that one person and she's looking at you in a funny little way, well, if you're believing that something bad about you, you're going to hook into that. So let's start. We're going to start with the 3 magical steps to start shine on stage. And when you have questions, just go ahead and ask. And I know I'm the same. When I go on these webcams and podcasts, whatever they're called, I'm so technically challenged, Anna. I'm
You're doing great.
Whatever on right now. And I'm often the last person to ask a question, but please do, because this is for you. All right. So these are the 3 magical steps that I take to shine on stage. And really, I take them for all areas of my life. And the first step is actually to get myself centered. And I use a particular tool that I love. And this tool is in my book, Turn Yourself On. It's an ancient yogic practice, but you don't have to do yoga to do it. And it's called Brahmari breath. And the translation of Brahmari breath is humming bee. And basically, we're going to do this together so that you actually feel it in real time. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do first of all. You're going to hear it, and then we'll all do it together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit up really straight. And I'm going to put my fingers in my ears, not actually in the holes, but they're that little flap. I'm going to push the flap in so I can't hear anything. I can just hear me. And I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to hum. So it sounds like this. So don't start just yet. Just have a little listen. It sounds like this. And then I would breathe in again, and I would hum. So we're going to do 3 together. What I'm going to invite you to do is after you've done 3, to actually keep your eyes closed, keep your fingers in your ears, and just see if you can hear the blood pumping around your veins. See if you can actually really hear your heart pumping. Normally we do 10 of these. After you do 10, you can actually hear it. And what it does is it brings you right into your center. It's really good if you're nervous. It's really good if you've got a busy head and you can't sleep at night, or you've got a busy head and you're just about to hop into a meeting. I used to do this breath before I would go into important meetings, and I would do them in the car with the windows wound down, actually genuinely not caring about people walking past, thinking I was probably chanting or something like that. It's a beautiful thing to do. Really good if you literally need to get everything out so you can center in. It also opens your throat chakra and allows your voice just to drop. Again, really good if you're going to go on stage. So let's do it together. Now, all of you are on mute. So actually, it doesn't matter. We're actually not going to hear you right now, which is pretty handy. All right, so I'm going to talk you through it. You ready? We're going to do 3. Take a deep breath in. Just sit up nice and tall. Place your fingers in the flaps of your ears. And actually, I'm just going to say to you now, if you're in a space listening to this where you can't make any noise, maybe you're in the office, you're on a bus, you're on a train, you're somewhere, I'm going to ask you to kind of breathe out. I kind of do like a big breath out, but sort of like as if you're humming, but just do it quietly and it will begin to have the same effect on you. All right, so let's take a deep breath in and let's get humming. Let's do 3 together. Off we go. Just breathing. Just noticing, can you hear the blood pumping around your body? Can you hear your heart beating? And then when you're ready, just gently, gently open your eyes and just feel that silence that's within you. Yeah, it's always there. It's just sometimes we get too busy to hear it. So you can connect to your silence anytime you want. And now you can feel that if you speak from this point, it will feel very different. So just know, if you ever come to see me on stage, this is what I'll be doing backstage. So it's really, really helpful. You can do it before you go to sleep at night. I know a lot of people do that. Anytime you need to say something that makes you nervous, go ahead and do it. You can just go to the bathrooms at work, stand in the stall, and just go for it. All right, so if anybody has any questions about that, let me know. So that's my first step. Step number 1 is do whatever gets you aligned. So Brahmari is perfect. It's quick, it's easy. You don't have to have a settled mind to do it. Often people like to do this as well before they meditate because it helps them get into that right space. The second magical step is to know that your presence is more important than your words. So when you're standing on stage, and I want you to use this interchangeably. I'm going to talk more about standing on stage, but really this is for any area of your life. Your presence is actually more important than the words you're going to say. So it's not about, often when we get nervous, it's normally about feeling judged, and it's normally about, Am I going to remember what to say in the right order? Oh, the time has to be right. That's right. I need to finish at 1:15. And there's all this stuff that we end up worrying about. But if we remember that our presence is actually the most important thing, it's a difference between me saying to you these words right now, my presence is the most important thing, or my presence is the most important thing. Did you see the difference? Same words, different feeling. So it doesn't matter as much what you're saying. It's actually your presence. It's actually your intent for the audience. What do you want for the audience? How do you want them walking out? What do you want for the people talking to you or seeing you? And if your presence is there and you make your presence the most important thing, you'll actually drop into your confidence. You'll drop into your natural energy. Because people see you. They want to know what you're talking about, right? From the title of the talk. But it's your presence that means everything. Like, how many of you have gone to see a band that you love and then you've been kind of disappointed because they weren't really in it somehow? They were just kind of singing the words, but they weren't present. And presence and presence is two different things, really. Present is being present in the moment, but presence is bringing your energy, your specific energy to what you're saying. How many of you have done that? I've done that. I went to see a band just recently and I was like, oh, that's a shame. There was no feeling in it. So can you see that? That goes for whether you're going for a job interview, first date, doing a video for the first time, being scared to death to put it out on social media. Doesn't matter what you're going to say as much as your presence. Your presence is everything. So do whatever you need to do to get into your presence. Okay, so that's the second beautiful step that's so important. And when you focus on that, honestly, you won't be as nervous. It won't actually matter as much. And the third step is to own your biggest fear so that it doesn't own you on stage. Own your biggest fear so it doesn't own you on stage. And by fear, what I really mean is judgment. What's the worst thing people could say about you? So I want you to imagine right now, and it doesn't matter if you're not a speaker, it doesn't matter, this is like in life. Imagine you're walking down a corridor right now, and people have just watched you. They've just watched your video, they've watched you on stage, or they've just interviewed you, or they've just had a conversation with you. And you're walking past a bunch of people, just like a few, and they're huddled by the water cooler. What's the worst thing they could say about you? What would make you go, oh, God, oh my God, and make your stomach just turn? Can't believe I went to see her. She was rubbish. God, who does she think she is? Wow, she really thought she was the big I am, didn't she? The way that she walked around, big know-it-all. She's pretty fake. I don't think she is who she said she is, you know? She doesn't look it. Yeah, she's definitely not as good as the other speaker that was on. Jeez. Yeah, I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like the way she spoke. I don't like her. I thought she was a bit rubbish, to be honest. What's the worst thing they could say about you? And if you're brave enough, put it in the chat box. What's the worst thing they could say about you? Okay. The worst thing they could say about you is your dark side, is your shadow. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. We've been taught to keep the parts of ourselves that we're most afraid of, that we're most ashamed of, in the shadows. And that's the part of us that doesn't feel good enough, that feels like a big fat fake standing on the stage, that feels like they're genuinely not going to be that likable, that lovable. They don't feel very good. We've been taught by society to hide that. Don't be that. No one's going to like it. Hide it. And so we create this sort of false persona, which is confident and charismatic and look at me and I'm fabulous and all of these things, because we don't want to show those parts in us that actually we don't like very much. And there's a lot of coaching out there. I'm going to bag out my industry because I'm sick to death of it. There's a lot of coaching out there that teaches us to suppress it, that teaches us to hide these parts, deny them, do 30 affirmations in front of the goddamn mirror. I am good enough. I am good enough. I am good. Hide it. Squash it. For God's sakes, don't let this part of you come up, because no one's going to like you. You're going to get rejected. This is not who you really are. You are your higher self. You're not your lower self. Well, I've got news for you, sister. You are your lower self. You're actually your lower self and your higher self. We're both light and dark. When we only try to be the light, and then we fear that you're going to see the dark. I fear that I'm standing on stage and you're going to be able to see right through me and all of the stuff that I fear that you might see. It has power over me. I'm going to change the way I talk. I'm going to change the way I dress. I can't be vulnerable on stage because you might see something in me that I really don't like. And see, if I'm talking to you one-on-one, very easy to hide the stuff I don't like, right? Because I can see your reaction. And as soon as I see your reaction, boom, I can change how I'm talking to you. But on stage, in a big group where I can't control you, I can't look at every single one of you all the time, you might just see the very thing I'm the most ashamed about. And you know what? That's going to make me real nervous. I'm going to do whatever I can do to hide it. But what if, instead of suppressing and denying these so-called weaknesses, I actually fell in love with them? I actually learned to love and accept them. I could see the gift in every single one. Then the next time you're on stage or you're on live TV, doesn't matter what they're going to think about it, does it? Because you've already fallen in love with yourself. And this is what I use when I go on stage. I went live for Channel 9 television breakfast show. They called me the night before, could I come in the following morning? They then said to me, we'll call you at 7 a.m. and let you know if you're definitely coming on, because if there's breaking news, we'll bump you off. So I still didn't know if I was going to be on. And we organized the night before everything it was that they wanted me to say. And then 10 minutes before I went on, they changed the whole thing and said, can you talk about something a bit different, please? And so the questions were changed. They changed the slides behind me. Now, if I'm nervous and frightened that I'm not good enough, that I'm really quite shit at what I do, please don't hate me, please like me, what's that going to do to me? What's that going to do to me? It's going to turn me into a massive tailspin, isn't it? But if I can love my gnarly bits, the bit of me that might trip up, the bit of me that isn't good enough, the bit of me that is vulnerable, that is stupid, that is unlovable, that is unlikable, if I can genuinely love and celebrate all of these very human traits, then it doesn't matter what the person at home is thinking about me when I'm live in the studio. It doesn't matter what you're thinking of me when I'm on stage. It doesn't matter what you're thinking of me as I cross the road towards you. You might think, God, what a fat, ugly cow. Well, guess what? If I've already fallen in love with fat, ugly cow or overweight, middle-aged spread, I'm still in my power. It doesn't matter the look in your eye. It doesn't matter that one member of the audience that's looking at me as if she really disapproves of everything I'm saying, or she's looking down at her phone. If I've already fallen in love with a part of me that's really boring, it won't matter. I will stay in my power on stage. Yeah? And this is for all of you now. If you want to start a new project, you're really frightened of making the next move. If you can genuinely fall in love with the part of you you're most frightened that's going to come out, you're free. And really what we're talking about is the very human part of you. But you've been built perfectly. You haven't been built wrong. We think that everybody else doesn't have these parts in themselves. I can tell you now, I coach some very high profile people that have won Oscars, that are on, film, TV, blah, 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 blah. We all have these parts. And my dark side, my not good enough, you kidding me? It's nowhere It's not worse than yours. It's not better than yours. It's the same as yours. People often project and go, well, yours would be much nicer, Marina. It really isn't. We have to fall in love with ourselves, right? This is who we are. We've just been socialized. We've been made to believe that we should somehow not be these things. But how many of you were these things this week? I was. Put your hand up right in the chat box if you dare. I have. I was that this morning. But because I love this part of myself, it has no power over me and I can use it in the right way. And so this is what I do with my clients. This is how I help a lot of my clients really move forward in their life, is by falling in love and accepting all of you, including your gnarly bits. And then you're free, aren't you? You have to do 50 goddamn affirmations in front of the mirror. Nothing wrong with affirmations. But honestly, if you have to keep saying it over and over, you don't know it. And so I'm talking about subconscious healing now. Genuine subconscious healing. And these are the programs, this is what I take my clients through, so that you actually have real freedom to speak to your family about something you're really frightened of speaking about. And then you go, oh God, mum's gonna, here we go. Mum's gonna, dad's gonna, here we go. No, if you can own what they would be saying about you deep down subconsciously, maybe they think you're a big spender. Oh, you would run out of money. You're such a big spender. Maybe they think that you're a loser. Whatever it is, each part of you has actually been designed to be loved and accepted. And so that is the work I do. And that's what I'm putting to you now. I'm going to lay down the gauntlet and say, if we stand in fear, if you listen to this podcast and you don't change anything, you're still going to stand in fear and fear that people can see right through you when you're talking and see your shame. What is it that you're hiding from the world? What is it that you don't want the world to know about you? All you're hiding is your human side that you've been wrongly taught is wrong. When you fall in love with it, it actually has a flip side. It has light, a lot of light in it. And you'll use it for the right reasons. You'll use it in the right way. It won't have control over you anymore. So you don't need to override these parts of yourself. You actually need to stop walking around with just half of yourself, which is the light side. And now I'm going to ask you, can you fall in love with your dark side? The part of you that you're most nervous about, that you don't want spilling out on stage. So I'll give you an example. I talked to a room of about 70 people, 70 women a little while back. And I was backstage and I was wearing these sort of big, beautiful, actually, velvet yellow sort of platform shoes. I'm quite high up. And if you know me, I'm not very good at walking in heels. Like there's always a part of me that has to concentrate on the heels, even though I'm talking to you. There's about 10% of me just focusing on that. And I had this sort of tiny little cocktail dress on, which was quite restrictive. And I looked at the floor and thought, oh my God, it's a marble polished floor. I mean, who does that? Literally, who does that? And I thought, I'm going to fall. I totally freaked out. And my shoes were new, so I hadn't had a chance to sort of scab them on the back yet. So they were going to be really slidey. So instead of getting on stage and doing what I was going to do with them, the first thing I said, we had music and I got on stage and I said, now, hi everybody, I'm Marina J. I'm really worried I'm going to fall on this floor. Have you guys seen it? It's marble. If I fall flat on my face, will you come and pick me up? And as soon as I said that, I totally relaxed. As soon as I shared my biggest fear, I totally relaxed. And then everybody else did too, and I didn't fall. So it's the difference between you really genuinely going, you know what? What if I did focus on this for a little while? What if I did accept and love the part of me that I'm so frightened you're going to see in me? Would that give me more freedom? Would I go take that risk? Would I go do that project? Would I make a start? Because then genuinely you can say hand on heart, I actually don't care what people think. And it won't be one of those throwaway comments because you actually don't. You don't care what they think of you. You care about them and you care about your message reaching them, just like I care about my message reaching you right now. But do I care what you're thinking about me right now? No. You think my voice is too loud, too quick? Who does she think? I've done it, babe. I've owned it all. And if I get affected by you, then guess what? That's just another part of me to love that I haven't loved yet. And if you don't love every part of me, all that says to me is that you're not loving that same corresponding part in you. Okay, I'm going to give you one more little bonus. One more little bonus step that will help. When you're talking on stage, see every single person in the audience as just a part of you. And if they look like they're criticizing you, okay, that's the part of me I haven't fallen in love with yet, the part that is critical of me, the part that's bored of me. They're all just parts of you. All right, so that is what I wanted to say to you today. Take it, run with it. My book's going to really help you. It's the steps that I take my clients through. It's called Turn Yourself On. You can get it from all good bookshops, and you can also get it from my website. All right, Anna, there you are.
Wow, Marina, oh my goodness. Wow, I am ready to fall in love with my gnarly bits.
And we've got them, and can I tell you, my gnarly bits are really ugly. Like I've got really yuck stuff. But that's the ultimate freedom. That's the ultimate freedom, and that's how we genuinely evolve. So for anybody out there that's getting coached and the person's telling them to ignore all that, geez, good luck with that. Walk away. Go find somebody that actually helps you genuinely fall in love, because you weren't made wrong. None of us were. We've just been led to believe that we are. And then look, and then it stops us. It stops us in our life. How boring is that? All of us are so talented and so clever, and we have so much to give to the world. So please don't let these judgments stop you. Focus on yourself. Really work on yourself, and I promise you, you will fly. You will absolutely fly.
Yes, absolutely. And oh my gosh, there were so many gold nuggets in there, Marina. And thank you so much for just bringing such a fresh take on a topic that gets talked about a lot. And I think, as you've pointed out, we are backed into that corner and told to present the best side of us to the world, when actually our audience relates to the gnarly bits.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you loving those parts in yourself gives permission for the audience to do it too. The more comfortable you are with yourself in your own skin, the more comfortable the audience will be. You know, when you watch a speaker and they're nervous, I don't know about you, I get a bit nervous. I go, oh, because I can feel them. Yeah, I can feel them. So I'll often then try and draw light around them, and I help them. I kind of help them to not be nervous, but it takes away from the experience. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And the audience can always sense and feel what you're feeling.
Definitely. So no feeling is wrong, right? If you feel nervous, you can even just say, hi, everybody, I'm here. I actually feel really nervous, but I'm really happy to be speaking to you right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? Every single person in the audience has felt the same. We're no different.